pretty decent or good day. Yeah, let's go with decent. Decent days tend to be a good day. Those are the same things. This video is going to be very quick. It's not going to be long at all. So if you see the kind of zinger of saying notification and I'm gone, I apologize. I would likely be back sometimes during the evening. But I wanted to have a conversation about Ana Kasparian in a video that she did on Tulsi Gabbard. Not the original video she did on Tulsi Gabbard, the video after Tulsi Gabbard came to the show in order to do an interview. Ana is unhappy in this video. I would go so far as to say cantankerous. It's hard to discern who she's unhappy with, but it sounds like she's unhappy with the audience and unhappy with Tulsi Gabbard. I'm going to let her explain it, but I have to be honest, I found this video to be childish and massively unprofessional. A presidential candidate decided to come onto your show and give your network the opportunity to interview her. And she leaves your show, and your issue isn't one on policy per se. It boils down to this kind of petty grief that you have. And I'll let Ana explain it and see if you can discern it for yourself.
Running for president and share thoughts, opinions, and concerns in response.
By the way, just so we're clear, I agree that any candidate that's running for president, yeah, you should ask them serious questions. You should ask them tough questions on their philosophy, on the things that they would do when they get into that office, on the things that they believe in. You should absolutely do that. We've gone far too long from the standpoint of the left, allowing a party in power to cow us into a certain degree of passivity. So yeah, you should ask questions that hold political leaders accountable. I just get the feeling that if this was Elizabeth Warren, it wouldn't be that much of a, I've seen the love fest between Uyghur and Elizabeth Warren, and it was a very different conversation with Tulsi Gabbard. My issue here, and I think the issue that people have been having with your coverage of Tulsi Gabbard, because what Ann is talking about here is people pushing back on her for her coverage of Tulsi Gabbard and for the interview that Uyghur did with Tulsi Gabbard. I think people's issue here is this. Ana says in this video that the majority of what Tulsi Gabbard believes in, she agrees with. It's a few issues. The Democratic Party establishment, so shows like MSNBC, is not going to be a safe harbor for Tulsi Gabbard because this kind of bipartisan consensual war and all this other stuff, Tulsi Gabbard turned up the apple cart, not to mention not supporting Hillary Clinton. So MSNBC is not going to be a safe harbor. CNN goes in line with this war consensus. So even though Tulsi Gabbard has been on CNN over and over and over again for the past several years, on issues of war in Syria, those are the things that they bring up because to some degree they want to try to discredit her from her larger issues that she wants to get to. It takes a certain amount of political acumen that she's been able to muster pretty well, actually, in order to turn the conversation in the areas that she wants. But the framing of it is not necessarily going to be favorable to her in the beginning. And of course, Fox News is Fox News. But TYT calls itself the quote-unquote home of the progressives. And if it's going to call itself the home of the progressives, and you have this woman who's a progressive, it would be a hope that some of the larger issues that she points to and deals with would be, let's say, elucidated as opposed to just every critical question that could be asked. So people's issue with it is that it came across as a negative interview. Nobody has issue with you being assertive or you asking questions that are critical of a candidate. Those are things that you should. And there were questions that you got asked that were actually really good questions. The problem is it's taken as a whole. Hey, there's a picture of you standing beside this person, and I'm not necessarily saying that this means anything, but hey, does this really mean anything? It's like, no, it's a picture. Everybody takes pictures. You even agreed before he even asked the question that it's a nonsense question, then continue to ask the question. Hey, Steve Bannon loves you. Why are you saying Steve Bannon loves you? Whether he does or not is besides the point. What is the question you want to get to? The framing of this stuff was just done in negative ways. So I don't disagree with Ana that you should ask assertive questions, But I am one of those people who thought it was a critical and negative interview, even though I thought Tulsi Gabbard did amazingly well in the interview. Let's hear her. I just want to front all of that. We're like 50 minutes in the interview. She's saying she asked Joe Biden and all of these other people the questions. So I'm just setting it up. And I'll put the video at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. It's only like 2 minutes long. Let's let it finish.
I did that with Joe Biden on this show. I've done the same with Kamala Harris, Kristen Gillibrand, and other candidates on TYT's main show. Regardless of my critiques, I've never received the type of backlash I did when covering Gabbard. Not only do I stand by my reporting and analysis, I condemn any attempt to silence me when it comes to any politician. Although I would have loved to ask Gabbard about the issues raised in my previous episode of No Filter.
By the way, I don't know if people have been trying to silence her or not. Like, I mean, this silencing thing just sounds a little weird. It sounds a little overblown. Your network has like, what, 4 million people, 4 million subscribers or some insane number like that. And with the number of subscribers and the number of people that watch your network, there are going to be a section of them that loves the anti-war candidate, that believes that the anti-war thing is the top of the priority list and is of utmost importance. I've met some of these people, so I know that they can feel extraordinarily intensely, let's say, about Tulsi Gabbard. Whether they're trying to silence you, that just sounds a little bit strong. And she even has, "I will not be silenced" on her shirt. Is it possible that a percentage of them are pushing back on her? Yes. Her making the point that she's never experienced it with Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or something. Well, this is supposedly a lefty network, and these people aren't lefties. So yeah, I guess you wouldn't hear it with them. You can criticize them all you want. But the moment that you're trying to criticize a lefty, then you're criticizing essentially part of your audience's, person. So yeah, you're going to get a little bit more intense backlash from something like that. Being silenced is a little bit different. I don't know if that was happening. If so, it shouldn't happen. But I don't know if that was taking place. So let's let her finish.
Filter, I was informed by her camp that I would not be part of the interview she had with TYT last Friday. It was surprising and a very surprising demand, considering no other candidate had done the same, regardless of how critical I've been about their positions in the past. I've said multiple times that true leaders put themselves in uncomfortable positions when it's the right thing to do, and answering the questions I had was the right thing to do. Cenk Uygur conducted a great interview, and I highly recommend you all check out the full conversation on TYT's YouTube page. But to set the record straight for those who think I ran from that interview, understand that I was in the same room watching as it took place. It was the first time any politician walked into my home and told me that I wasn't allowed to do my job. So you can disagree with my analysis, you can have a different perspective, but you can't argue that I smeared her without providing.
I'm not going to argue that you smeared her because, if I'm being honest, I didn't watch your interview. I don't necessarily watch TYT per se. And so I didn't have an opinion one way or the other on it. And there are things that you can legitimately hit Tulsi Gabbard on. So again, I don't even necessarily have an overarching, issue with that more than beyond what I've already said about what I thought of Cenk Uygur's interview. There were elements of that interview that Cenk Uygur was even getting stuff wrong. So, no, I didn't particularly like the interview. Just so we're clear, who are you angry at? Like, it sounds like you're angry at the audience and you're angry at Tulsi Gabbard because she didn't give you the opportunity to interview her. If you listen to her, she said, Tulsi Gabbard's camp contacted us and told us that I was not allowed to do the interview. And then to go into this kind of emotional thing of, this is the first time somebody came into my house, etc., etc. Just so we're very clear on this point. And even making this dig that true leaders put themselves in uncomfortable situations when it was the right thing to do, and asking her questions was the right thing to do. Look, right and wrong. Answering your questions wasn't the right thing to do, because right is not necessarily done to an absolute, it's done to relative. So maybe to you it was the right thing to do, but clearly Tulsi Gabbard didn't necessarily want you asking the questions. That's assuming that what Anna's saying is right. I contacted Tulsi Gabbard's campaign to ask for a response. I haven't heard a response back yet. Let's be very clear, though, on what's taking place. A presidential candidate made the decision to go on TYT and to give your network the opportunity to interview her. She did this even after you did a critical interview, or let's say a critical analysis, if we want to call it analysis, of Tulsi Gabbard. I think it was like an 18, 20-minute video where you essentially went after Tulsi Gabbard. Your network clearly doesn't like Tulsi Gabbard, and fair enough. But nevertheless, it was very clear that you didn't like her. You just made the point that the backlash you got across of that video was somewhat scathing. But she still decided to come onto your network anyway. And not just come onto your network. You, as you just said, was sitting in the room as the interview was taking place. What is your complaint? Yes, she said she didn't want you to do the interview. So what? You've just said that you were sitting in the room. Are we to believe that Tulsi Gabbard didn't think that Cenk Uygur would have seen your scathing criticism of Tulsi Gabbard? Does she think that you guys wouldn't have talked beforehand, before she had the interview? Or that you might have said, hey, Cenk, hey, I have these burning questions that I need to know for Tulsi Gabbard. Could you please ask her these questions? Cenk Uygur asked her every critical question that he could think of asking her. If you had additional critical questions, you should have just asked Cenk Uygur to ask him. I'm pretty sure he could have added it in that, 38-minute interview. My point is this. A presidential candidate decided that they didn't want you to do the interview. However, let your network do the interview. Meaning that anything that you wanted to ask could have been asked by Uygur. There was no reason to believe that you wouldn't have asked Uygur to ask Tulsi Gabbard certain questions. The idea that leaders put themselves in difficult positions when it's the right thing to do, but it was the right thing to do to answer your questions. You had the opportunity to ask Uygur. You guys work together under the same network. What is your issue? It sounds like you're crying about her not giving you the opportunity to do the interview. But again, your network did the interview. She answered every last critical question that Cenk Uygur had in that interview. And the thanks that she gets for doing that interview, for answering every question, not dodging, not trying to get away from the question, none of that stuff. She held her positions and she answered everything that Uygur wanted to know. And her thanks for working with your network is to get a kicking where true leaders do the right thing. And by definition, you're trying to make the point that because she didn't answer your questions, that she's somehow not a true leader. Yes, I think that's childish, and I think that's unprofessional. She gave your network the opportunity for an interview. Your network took the opportunity to get that interview. You guys are a network. Anything that Uygur or that you wanted to know, you could have asked Uygur. Nobody believes that Uygur went into a room, into some kind of meditative state where he himself came up with the questions by himself, and he put a wall around himself to prevent Ana Kasparian for asking Uygur to ask Tulsi Gabbard some questions. I don't think that at all. You're angry at the audience. You're angry at Tulsi Gabbard for not letting you get the interview opportunity. And then in an odd way, they feed off each other because the audience saying that you were running away from the interview with Tulsi Gabbard, the fact that it burns you in and of itself that she didn't give you the interview, it burns you that much more with the audience saying that you ran. Yeah, I think this was childish. And I think this was grossly unprofessional. She gave your network the opportunity to do an interview. And coming from somebody who have been trying to get an interview for Tulsi Gabbard, who've been begging them for an interview, who see Tulsi Gabbard give all these other interviews, and I'm like, wait a minute, what about me? I have questions. Nobody has ever asked my questions to Tulsi Gabbard. To see you treat her this way. This is an issue of policy. I mean, you're not hitting her on policy. You're saying that she's somehow not a true leader because she didn't sit down and talk with Ana Kasparian, because Ana Kasparian is the defining thing of leadership. It's nonsense. Complete nonsense. Balthazar. Anna's just jealous that Tulsi's both further left and better looking than her without a little work. Oh, Anna's job is in journalism, is propaganda. I thought you were going somewhere else with that, Balthazar. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Yeah, man. They don't like Tulsi Gabbard. MSNBC liked. MSNBC doesn't like Tulsi Gabbard because of the Democratic Party thing. I don't know what the B in TYT's bonnet is. Who knows if it has anything to do with the Katzenberg, whatever his name is. I don't know, man. I don't know what the B in their bonnet is, but they clearly dislike Tulsi Gabbard. Pet hacker Nico House was one of the few blacks that supported Bernie from day one. Now you new progressives run him down. Run who down? I don't run Bernie Sanders down. What are you talking about? Anna defenders were unreal on Twitter and counted the most ridiculous people alive. That's quite an accusation, Jamal. It may be quite an accusation, but I do think it's true. Cool Blue 71. Jamal, do you figure TYT at this point is nothing more than a promotional arm of the Democratic Party establishment? I think MSNBC and TYT are part of it. I mean, look, at the end of the thing, it says vote Clinton. You can have all of your lefty stuff. You can be a little antsy and everything else, but at the end of the process, you're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm going to push my audience to vote for Hillary Clinton. It's like the Cedars of the world. You push a little bit to the left, but however far to the left you go, ultimately you still end up with this thing of supporting Democrats. So, I don't know. Maybe Tulsi watched the Alex Jones stage invasion and the unprofessional way Anna dealt with that. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, you know what, Jimmy Dore spitting on Jones or something like that? Krillin 876, did she really ask to see me? Yes, he did. Yes, Cenk Uygur did. No, Cenk Uygur asked that question. This is kind of my point. Any question that Anna wanted to ask, she could have asked Uygur. Also, does she honestly really believe that Tulsi Gabbard thought that Anna would have no input in the conversation, or that Uygur wouldn't have seen the skeptical video that Kasparian made? I mean, it's like, come on. I don't know any network that does that. Like, the woman comes on your show to give you an interview, and you turn around and kick her in the back when she's walking away. And you're kicking her because you're somewhat angry that she didn't give you an interview, but then you're angry that the audience is joking you for not getting that interview, which is the thing that kind of spurred on the kicking her. She's done nothing to you. She's done nothing to your network. She's done, like, Tulsi Gabbard gave you guys an interview, and your response to that was to turn around and say that she wasn't a leader because she didn't interview the very specific person, meeting you. I mean, come on. Are you serious? Are you serious? Don't you mean the 20 million bees in the bonnet? TYT isn't Rebel headquarters. They're Cloud City. Cloud City. What is that from? Not Resident Evil. What is it from? What is it from? What is a video game? That's a video game. 20 million bees in a bonnet. I'm still waiting for Lando Chinkerstan to redeem himself. How's he going to do that? How is she going to do that? Yeah, man. Yeah, I greatly dislike this. I don't think she's disgusting. I don't particularly like Anna, but that's kind of besides the point on this thing. It's one of those things, just like, you don't have to watch shows where you don't particularly like people. It's like, I always tell people, if you don't like a segment that I'm doing, just don't watch. It's that simple. So there's no, I don't take any issue with it from that standpoint. I think my issue here boils down to, she came on your network and you're kicking her in the knees after it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, she literally came on your network. You said yourself you were in the room with her. You're angry that your audience is poking fun at that. Fair enough. But why are you hitting her in the back of the head with the leadership comment? She gave your network an interview. That wasn't sufficient for you because you yourself wanted the interview. It's okay to be angry and pissed off that she didn't give you the interview. That's being a person. Fair enough. But there is something to be said about you working under a network, and that network given the opportunity to talk to a presidential candidate. And you guys working together under the banner of a network, I would imagine anything you wanted to know just would have flowed. Like, I guess the anger here seems to be coming from this thing of the audience poking fun at her for something that she herself wanted. Meaning, I really wanted this interview, and my audience is saying that I ran away from the interview. I'm angry at this situation, and so now I'm going to make a 3-minute video telling everybody that Tulsi Gabbard was the one that ran from this interview, not me, and that she's not a true leader because she ran. I was like, what the fuck? Like, she gave you an interview. She gave you an interview. It's like, what's your complaint? Cloud City is from Star Wars, where supposedly ally of the rebels betrays the rebels and sells them out to the Empire in episode 5. You mean Lando Calrissian. If Hitler liked Babe Ruth, then I can't root for the Yanks. If Hitler liked Babe Ruth, then I can't root for the Yanks? Question mark. That does seem to be the thing, right? But you understand why they're asking that Steve Bannon question. Or the picture question. They're trying to make this point of, it's a subtweet. It's a hitting somebody below the knees while not trying to appear as if you're hitting them below the knees. This guilt by association. Hey, here's this despicable person that likes you. Not saying that should matter. I'm just noting that this despicable person likes you. So what do you have to say about... I was like, what? Why are you even introducing that into the conversation? That has nothing to do with the question that you're about to ask. You're just introducing it into the conversation. Oh, I'm not going to say that, Skip. I'm not going to say that, Skip. Ana Kasparian and her fake Michael Jackson nose forgot the fires about the DCCC and the DNC. Forged in the fires. Oh, that's brutal. Could Tyler prefer Warren over Tulsi so they don't see Tulsi as valuable? Perhaps to the extent the kneecapping. Emma is always a Warren supporter. Yes, Emma is always like Warren. And I'm telling you, go look at the interview between Cenk Uygur and Elizabeth Warren. And look at the interview between Cenk Uygur and Tulsi Gabbard. There is a distinct difference in those two interviews. A very distinct difference. In one case, you get the clear impression that Cenk Uygur and Elizabeth Warren are pals, like buddies. Tulsi Gabbard, not so much. And you kind of have to ask this question, why? Why? If I'm not mistaken, Elizabeth Warren saying she was going to take money if she runs in the main election. Well, that seems to be, an anathema to TYT. I wonder if they're going to bring that up and blow that spot up. Are they going to talk about that in an entire video? Is she going to do an entire scathing video on Elizabeth Warren? I severely doubt it. McAuliffe, Louisiana. Jamarl, good morning. How's your wife? My wife is doing okay, actually. She's doing fine. She's not too bad. TYT against money in politics. Warren goes on TYT saying she'll take money in the general election. Yes, Manny, that's right. Thank you, Manny. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Right here. TYT is against money in politics. 1. 2. Warren goes on TYT saying she'll take money in politics and in general. 3. What does Cenk say? Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. It's kind of my point. Thank you, Manny. I appreciate it. Creative experiments. TYT is trying to sell their own flavor of Russiagate. Cenk said it's not helping private war companies, but Cenk ignores the deep state coup underway right now. I strongly suspect, I'd love to have Yang on the show. MacArthur, I'd love to have him on the show. Krillin, they don't like her because Gabbard specifically says she will run on issues and not identity politics. TYT is only identity politics 24/7. You know what? This is kind of my thing. I honestly believe that TYT is false opposition. Right? I mean, don't misunderstand me. If they got the opportunity to get a lefty in, they would probably be to the left, meaning they would defend the left position and everything else. But in lieu of that, they would support the Democratic Party, meaning they would burn their network down to say, vote Hillary Clinton. there are times where that is not necessarily the best strategy, just voting for any random Democrat that is, in this case, a random Democrat being Hillary Clinton. As to test to that, look at what's taking place. Look at the conversations we're having. Look at the potential that's opened up in regards to healthcare and education, Social Security. Like, none of these things take place with a Hillary Clinton in office. All of this takes place because of the chaos that's essentially allowing different conversations to take place. It's not that I like Trump in that office. God knows I don't like Trump in that office. But you get this situation of how do you advance the ball, and do you lose ground by putting the Democrat in office? And in this case, I think the answer to that would have been yes. Hillary Clinton, regardless of what she did from 2016 to 2020, they would have turned around and said, you got to vote for Hillary Clinton this time around because Ted Cruz is a maniac. And oh my God, Ted Cruz is going to burn the country down. We could talk about this third party stuff, but we have to talk about this third party stuff after Hillary Clinton gets elected again. The conversation we're having now doesn't take place. So. All right. Where is... There it is. All right. I'm going to end this Zuggy... Oh, God. Zuggy the Chess Guy. I noticed TYT numbers are down recently. You can always predict TYT numbers as being inversely proportional to the amount of clothing Anna is wearing. Oh, that's so sexist. And Zuggy, I'm going to kick your ass in chess, buddy. They don't know. Well, two things. TYT numbers might be down because they don't like the news. Well, what I mean by that is, apparently, when information comes out that's not positive to the audience,
There was a lot of anger regarding.
let's say, so like, Mueller report comes out. And in the Mueller report, you find out that the Russiagate stuff was nonsense. Well, the audience doesn't like to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They consider that to be bad news. And so immediately after what they consider to be bad news, the numbers essentially go down. The numbers will pop back up. But for the time being, the audience is demoralized because they believed in something that did not exist. Not just that, to go further. Barr goes in and makes the point that I've been making for the entire 3 years, that the Trump campaign was spied on by the Obama administration. I kept asking this question, why don't you believe that the Obama administration would have done that? It was like, because he's a man of integrity and blah, blah, blah. They're playing for keeps. You're talking about the presidency of the United States. And you're talking about the potential of it ending up in the hands of Donald Trump, which is, from their estimates, a wild card, to say the least. If this was flipped, meaning, think about it for the moment. The people who were responsible for getting Hillary Clinton off, meaning the people who were responsible for ensuring that Hillary Clinton was not perp walked, even though anybody else given the exact same circumstances would be put in prison by now, were the exact same people that were instrumental in getting Donald Trump put on. Meaning, the ability to spy on Donald Trump to some degree was done by the same people that got Hillary Clinton off. The same names come up: Strzok, McCabe, Rod Rosenstein, the one that essentially started the case in the first place. Like, hell, Rothstein was even talking about taking the president out, using the impeachment proceedings, like wearing a wire to spy on the president of the United States. This is the stuff that they were talking about. Lisa Page comes in and makes this argument that they were trying to get a case on Clinton. I use these two in combination because I try to make this point that it is bizarre that Clinton got off. And if it's bizarre that she got off, meaning she shouldn't have gotten off, that means already they were willing to do something that was unsavory. What will stop them from doing something else that was unsavory within the same line? Meaning, helping the person to get off who will beat Donald Trump, or could beat Donald Trump, while simultaneously spying on Donald Trump. Like, I don't have this, I'm sorry, I have somewhat of a cynical view of politics. And I do think that if people get the opportunity, they would do it. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy with the entirety of the FBI. You only need a few people who are in line in order to make those decisions, especially if the case is held in an insular way, which the Hillary Clinton case was. And what I mean by insular, Comey apparently did take it to the Justice Department, who pushed them away on this idea of negligence. I don't think anybody else would have gotten that opportunity for that to get pushed away like that. Like, the way they ran this case was astonishing. And so then you turn around and say, well, they ran the Clinton case in an astonishing way, and they let her off. There's no reason on this planet that she should have been let off. And now the same people who show deference to Clinton is looking at a case that the person who's running against Clinton is now on. I hope I'm making this point. I don't know if I'm making it well. It feels like I'm in a word salad. Shank says he believes Russia gave more than Rachel Maddow. Yeah, he did say that. Well, Jake has gotten to the point of he's saying he believes that Vladimir Putin is giving Trump lectures, like lessons. Like that he's telling Trump commands, hey, go and do this. And then Trump goes and articulates. And then when you try to make this point that Cenk, look at the list of things that Donald Trump did that was against Russian interests. And he waves it off. And he says, yeah, I've taken that into consideration. But if they haven't looked at the bank records, and it's like, but Cenk, you realize that Mueller had a wide berth to look into these things. Now, mind you, at some point we're going to see the report and we're going to figure out how far he went into it. But from Cenk's point of view, hey, my theory of this is still intact because they haven't looked further. They just need to go further. I need to see his long-form birth certificate. I need to see his high school records. I need to see his baby records. I need to see his baby footprint. And if that baby footprint doesn't match up, all hell is going to break loose. All right. I'm going to end this. I will likely be back because I have a bunch of stories to get to. And I'm dragging ass today, guys. I'm sorry. I don't feel well. I haven't felt well for most of this week. I am going to be on Garland Nixon's show on Pacifica. I don't know how many people would get that show. That's one of those things that's more so around DC and the Maryland area. But I believe that's at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. But otherwise, I will probably see you later tonight. And if not tonight, tomorrow. But most likely tonight. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.